Once upon a time, in the bustling town of Edo, nestled deep in the heart of Africa, there lived a man known far and wide as very dark man. His skin glistened like polished ebony under the sun. His voice was like a melody that could soothe even the most troubled soul, and his charm was irresistible. Women of all ages, from maidens to married matriarchs, flocked to him like bees to nectar. Very Dark Man was no ordinary man. He was wealthy beyond imagination, dressed in the finest attire, and rode in carriages adorned with gold. Yet, it was not his wealth that drew women to him, it was his aura.
Welcome to Echo Folktales, where stories breathe life. Step into a vibrant world of African storytelling and true life narratives that echo through time.
He spoke to every woman as though she were the only one in the world, lifting their spirits with his tender words and showering them with affection. When he held a woman in his arms, she felt as if the weight of the world had been lifted. He would gently massage her shoulders, whisper sweet nothing into her ear, and twirl her in the air as if she were as light as feather. But beneath his enchanting exterior lay a dark mystery. As time passed, whispers began to circulate through the town. It seems that every woman who became too close to Very Dark Man would fall gravely ill and perish within weeks of their intimacy. Young maidens, once vibrant and full of life, withered away. Even married women who had left their husbands for his embrace succumbed to the strange fate. The town's elders grew restless. They had noticed that the death began shortly after Very Dark Man arrived in Edo. Suspicions grew, but no one could accuse him outright. His charm blinded many, and his relationships were so numerous and threatening that it became impossible to discern who his true lovers were. One day, the chief priestess of the village, Grace, a woman known for her wisdom and spiritual insight, decided to investigate. She summoned the town's elder and revealed a chilling truth. Very Dark Man is no ordinary mortal. He carries with him a curse, a punishment from the gods for his deceitful ways. Long ago, he promised his heart to the goddess of deliver, but when he broke his vow and sought love of mortal women, she cursed him. And any woman who falls in love with him is marked for death, her soul claimed by rivers queen in jealous rage. The town was thrown into chaos. Women wept for their lost sisters, and men raged against the man who had caused so much grief. But Very Dark Man denied any wrongdoing. I have loved no goddess, he said. I am but a man who enjoys the company of women. How can I be blamed for their deaths? The priestess devised a plan. She instructed the townspeople to watch him closely. He must be stopped, she said, but we must confirm the truth. One moonless night, the Very Dark Man was seen entering the sacred forest, where only spirits were said to roam. A group of brave young men followed him and witnessed a chilling sight. He knelt by the river bank, speaking to an ethereal figure that rose from the water. Her voice was cold. You dare defy me, Paul. The spirit hissed, calling him by his true name. I warned you, no mortal woman shall take what belongs to me. Continue to seduce them, and I will leave only death in your wake. Terrified, the men returned to the village and relayed what they had seen. The priestess summoned Very Dark Man to the shrine and confronted him with the truth. he could no longer deny it. He had indeed broken his vow to the river goddess. The priestess declared that the curse could only be lifted if very dark man sought the forgiveness of the river queen and vowed to live a life of humility. The river goddess, however, was not easily appeased. She demanded a sacrifice, his beauty and charm. If he agreed, she would release him from her curse and allow him to live as a normal mortal, untouched by her words. After much contemplation, very dark man agreed. He went to the river at dawn and made a sacrifice. As the first rays of sunshine touched the water, his handsome features faded. His voice lost its seductive melody, and his allure disappeared. Freed from the curse, very dark man lived a quiet life, helping those he had wronged and seeking forgiveness from the families of the women who had perished. Though he was no longer the man every woman dreamed of, he found peace in being an ordinary man. And so, the legend of Very Dark Man became a cautionary tale in Edo. Very Dark Man moved to another state, hoping to start afresh and leave behind the shadow of his past. However, life in a new place proved to be a cruel struggle. Poverty crawled at him, mocking the once glorious man who had everything. He was no longer the charming enigma who could enchant everyone with a mere glance. Instead, he wandered the streets like a forgotten soul, seeking solace in anonymity. In his desperation, he sought refuge with an old friend, Michael, who welcomed him into his small apartment. Michael seems kind at the first, providing him with shelter and food. But unbeknownst to Very Dark Man, Michael harbored a secret life and intention that would soon come to light. Days turned into weeks, and Very Dark Man began to notice strange behaviors. Michael would often engage him in conversations, laced with subtle suggestions, hinting at his own lifestyle and urging Very Dark Man to join him, to become one of them. "You see, my friend," Michael said one evening, "in this life, one must adapt to survive. Times are hard, and sometimes you must embrace opportunities, even if they go against your nature." At first, Very Dark Man dismissed these words, convinced that he could endure his hardships with patience and perseverance. But Michael's insinuations grew bolder with time. One fateful night, after yet another refusal, Michael confronted him directly. "You refuse to join me," Michael snapped, his tone sharp. "Yet you eat the food I buy with the money I earn from hookup. How long will you live off me without accepting what sustains me?" Very Dark Man was struck dumb. The truth of his dependence weighed heavily on his spirit. For 3 days, Michael withheld food, forcing him to confront his hunger and despair. Each passing moment chipped away at his resolve. He contemplated returning to his former town, but the memories of the lives he had destroyed haunted him. He could not bear to face the families of the women who had died because of his cause. On the 3rd day, consumed by hunger and hopelessness, Very Dark Man gave in. "I will join you," he said quietly, his voice trembling with shame. That evening, Michael celebrated his victory with a feast, laying out an assortment of rich, enticing foods. He gave Very Dark Man his first assignment, one that required him to cross a boundary he had long despised. But as very dark man carried out the act, a wave of revulsion overtook him. Why am I doing this? He thought, tears welling in his eyes. The memory of the man he once was, proud, charming, and adored, crashed with the harsh reality of his current existence. Unable to endure it any longer, he excused himself under the pretense of needing to relieve himself and fled the apartment. When Michael realized what had happened, he called Very Dark Man repeatedly, but he refused to answer. He wandered the streets aimlessly, overwhelmed by the sense of self-loathing and despair. As he walked, an old woman approached him. Her fair frame trembled as she said, "My son, I am very hungry. Please help me with something to buy food." Very Dark Man hesitated. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the money Michael had given him for the first assignment. Without a second thought, he handed it to the woman. "Take this," he said softly, his voice tinged with sorrow. The old woman looked at him with a smile that seems almost otherworldly. "May the gods remember your kindness," she said before vanishing into the crowd. As Very Dark Man continued his aimless journey, something extraordinary began to happen. Women, young and old, started noticing him again. They stopped in their tracks, their eyes drawn to him as though he had radiated an irresistible light. Some wealthy women in luxurious cars parked by the roadside, calling out to him and offering him light. At first, he was confused. Is this real? He wondered. Then he remembered the old woman. She wasn't ordinary, he realized. His heart pounding, he ran back to where he had met her, but she was nowhere to be found. Soon, he discovered that not only had his charm returned, but it was stronger than before. Women melted at the sound of his voice and showered him with gifts, money, cars, and even lucrative job offers. But this time, Very Dark Man was a changed man. He refused to engage in intimacy, wary of the past that had nearly destroyed him. With his newfound fortune, Very Dark Man decided to use his gifts for good. He began helping the poor and the destitute, feeding the hungry and supporting widows and orphans. The more he gave, the more his blessings multiplied. A Very Dark Man refused to accept gifts from the women who loved him. It always ended in problems. The women, offended by his rejection, would act out in anger, threatening to harm themselves or blaming him for wasting their affections. On the other hand, if he accepted the gifts, new problems arose. The women would often complain bitterly, saying things like, "I sold my gold to buy this for you," or "I used my 6 months' salary just to show you how much I care." The more he tried to stay distant, the more women seemed drawn to him. Old admirers returned, and new ones joined the fray, each determined to win his affection. One day, one of the wealthiest women among them devised a plan. She invited Very Dark Man to travel to Dubai for tourism. Initially hesitant, he warned her, "We will not share the same room. I want no misunderstandings or incidents that could hurt you." Despite his reservations, he eventually agreed. Trying to maintain his composure, and uphold the principles he had set to avoid a repeat of the tragedies that haunted his past. When they arrived Dubai, the woman lavished him with attention, gifts, and promises. She spared no expenses, treating him to expensive meals and luxurious shopping. She even promised to transfer ownership of one of her companies in Canada to him. Yet, Very Dark Man resisted her advances. Despite feeling the same desire that plagued him before, he held firm. "I care about you," he told her one evening. "You are one of the most beautiful women on earth. But I love you too much to risk your life. You don't understand my past." He recounted the tragic consequences his previous relationship had caused. But the woman refused to believe him. She thought his words were a plot to avoid intimacy, or that he had a secret lover he was protecting. Frustrated and angry, she decided to take drastic action. She ordered him locked in a dilapidated room within the hotel, forbidding him from leaving till he agreed to her demands. She ensured his suffering was blunt but not fatal, instructing the staff to feed him only once a day. The woman who owned the hotel left Dubai for UK, where she had a mansion. She intended to return in a month, confident that by then, the Very Dark Man would have succumbed. He instructed the hotel manager not to allow any female staff near him, knowing full well the power he held over women. However, there was a misunderstanding between the manager and the boy assigned to serve Very Dark Man. When the boy was sacked, a new staff member, a young girl, was employed in his place. From the moment this new girl, Emily, laid eyes on Very Dark Man, she was captivated. She couldn't understand why a man like him was imprisoned, but she was determined to help him. Emily's focus shifted entirely to fleeing him, even at the risk of losing her job. One night, Emily devised a plan with her best friend. Her friend snuck into the hotel, removed her uniform, and gave it to Emily, who disguised herself in her friend's clothes. Together, they sneaked into the secret room where Very Dark Man was being held. Emily whispered to Very Dark Man, handing him the uniform, "I will get you out of here tonight, but you must keep quiet." Disguised as a female staff member, Very Dark Man walked out of the hotel with Emily. They managed to evade the cameras and the guards, thanks to Emily's clever planning. Once outside, she helped him find a safe place to stay. When the wealthy woman returned from UK, she discovered that Very Dark Man was gone. Furious, she contacted the authorities, but to her surprise, it was she who ended up arrested. Emily had reported her to police, detailing the abuse Very Dark Man had suffered under her care. The woman was sentenced to prison and ordered to pay Very Dark Man a huge compensation for his suffering. Now free, Very Dark Man chose to live a quiet life indoors, avoiding the outside world to escape the relentless attention of women. Emily stayed with him, taking care of him and proven to be the first woman who loved him selflessly. Over time, Very Dark Man grew fond of her. One fateful night, in a moment of weakness, they slept together. Emily was overjoyed, but Very Dark Man was consumed with fear. He was convinced that the curse would claim her life, just as it had claimed the others. Days turned into weeks, and to his amazement, nothing happened. Emily remained healthy and vibrant. Unbeknownst to very dark man, the old woman who had returned his charm and glory had done more than he realized. She had lifted the curse entirely, but left him unaware, perhaps as a test of his character. His newfound attractiveness was not a gift. It was a restoration of his true self, untainted by the curse of the river goddess. The story of Very Dark Man continues as he navigates a life filled with blessings and temptations. Unsure of what the future holds, will he finally find peace, or will the shadow of his past return to test him once more? One evening, Very Dark Man called Emily to a quiet corner of the house. He spoke softly but firmly, gratitude evident in his voice. "Emily, I cannot thank you enough for all you've done for me," he began. "You saved my life when I had no hope. You have stood by me without asking for anything in return. I will forever be grateful to you." Emily looked at him curiously, sensing the heaviness in his tone. "What is it, Paul? What is on your mind?" "I've been thinking," he said, avoiding her gaze. "I believe it is time for me to return to Nigeria. I need to face my past and find a way to manage this course of mine. Staying here only brings more complications. Women here are drawn to me, and I fear I may end up another situation like the one I just escaped." Emily's eyes filled with concern. "Then let me go with you," she said. "I am Nigerian too. We can face this together." Very Dark Man hesitated, his heart torn. A part of him wanted her to come, but deep down he feared dragging her further into her chaos that followed him everywhere. After a moment of silence, he nodded reluctantly. "All right, but promise me you will keep your distance from anything that may put you in danger. My life is complicated, and I don't want to see you hurt." Emily agreed, but she had her own plan brewing. As the day of their departure drew closer, Emily began to grow restless. Though she loved Very Dark Man deeply, she realized she could never truly have him to herself. Everywhere they went, women flocked to him, competing for his attention. She felt invisible in his shadow, and jealousy began to take root in her heart. One night, while Very Dark Man was asleep, Emily went through his belongings and found his Nigeria passport. An idea formed in her mind. She contacted an immigration officer she knew and reported that Very Dark Man was traveling under false pretenses. Her intention wasn't to harm him, but to delay his journey and keep him in Dubai with her a little longer. When Very Dark Man arrived at the airport the next day, he was denied and questioned for hours. By the time he was cleared, he had missed his pride. Emily pretended to be unaware of the incident, comforted him when he returned. But Very Dark Man wasn't fooled. He had overheard a conversation between Emily and the officer while he was detained. He realized she had betrayed him out of love and desperation. "I trusted you, Emily," he said quietly when he confronted her. "But now, I see that even you are not immune to the chaos my life brings." Tears streamed down Emily's face. "I only did it because I love you."
Feel free to join us and share any African story or piece of history you'd like us to research and explore.
Subscribe now and join us as we bring Africa's timeless stories to the world. Let the echoes guide you.
Thanks for watching. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channels, follow us on all social media,